First, though, to the breaking news just a short while ago that Bridget McKenzie has resigned from Cabinet 3 weeks after an Auditor-General report found she directed funds from a $100 million sports program to marginal seats before the federal election. A second report now by the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet Secretary Phil Gaetjens found she breached ministerial standards by failing to declare her membership of a club, which she signed off on funding for. Here's the Prime Minister announcing her resignation just a short while ago.
Secretary concluded that the timing is such that the potential conflict should have been clear, this is in relation to the gun club membership, to the Minister by failing to put appropriate arrangements in place to avoid the potential for conflict, such as asking another Minister to make any decisions relating to organisations of which she was a member. The Minister had failed to do that, and the Secretary found that this was in breach of the ministerial standards. There are also a number of other matters relating to another organisation, but that one in particular dealt with a conflict of interest for an actual applicant who had received the grant. On the basis of that, and that is the conflict of interest and the failure to disclose, the Minister has tendered her resignation to me this afternoon.
My information is that the Prime Minister received the report late yesterday. He gave it to Bridget McKenzie today, allowing her to come to her own decision to resign rather than sacking her. The government had been hoping for weeks that she would resign, but she was adamant she had done the right thing. Bridget McKenzie has released a statement defending her conduct, but admitting she may not have made the declaration in a timely manner. Here's what she said in her statement. She said, Phil Gaetjens, we're bringing it up for you now, hopefully. In a moment, we'll have that statement. Phil Gaetjens' report had a different finding to the Auditor-General. It found that ultimately there was nothing wrong with the sports grants program or how it was implemented, and that funding had not been given to marginal seats. We're going to get into that point and the discrepancy between Phil Gaetjens' report and the Auditor-General's report later in the show. But right now, let's bring you to Bridget McKenzie's statement, which was up on screen a moment ago. There, she's basically saying that she did the right thing and she followed the rules of the program. She didn't break any of the rules, but she should have made her declaration of this gun club in a more timely fashion. So she really has been very strong over the past few weeks, refusing to go and maintaining that she did not do anything wrong and followed the program that was established under the former Turnbull government. The Nationals, the National Party, have been salivating at the thought of Bridget McKenzie's carcass. They've been very keen for the chance to further their own careers and get rid of someone they didn't like. They've been trying to get rid of her for months, and they've used this scandal to try and topple her. Those who hope to benefit over the coming days, and there's expected to be a Nationals party room meeting on Tuesday morning if it's not fast-tracked. They include David Littleproud, who's very talented and ambitious. He's the most likely person to become the new deputy leader of the Nationals. Darren Chester also could be promoted back into cabinet, seeing as there is now a cabinet vacancy. He was very disappointed at being ousted from cabinet previously under a former reshuffle. And Matt Canavan hopes to become the Senate leader. Now, what could cause these very neat plans to become more complicated is the entry of Barnaby Joyce, and if he decides he wants to make a comeback to the leadership team. We know that Barnaby Joyce has been eyeing off the top job of Nationals leader and a return to it once again, and has been very critical behind the scenes about Michael McCormack's performance. If he were to gather the numbers to be deputy leader, that would pave a pathway for mounting a campaign to return to the leadership in a timeline of the next couple of months. And there are Nationals speaking about that and who've been plotting about that over the past 2 weeks as they wait for Bridget McKenzie to resign. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, now hopes that it's the close of this chapter for the government, but the pressure will continue to mount on the government over the matter. When Parliament returns this week, Labor is expected to demand answers over what the Prime Minister's office and his staff knew about the pork barrelling. Here's Anthony Albanese.
That quite clearly involves the Office of the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, that the Audit Office found was an abuse of process and abuse of outcomes. What we've seen here is the government use taxpayers' funds as if they were its own funds. Bridget McKenzie simply cannot remain in office. We don't need a report. from Scott Morrison's former Chief of Staff. We don't need a report to know that there's something wrong with someone giving funds to an organisation that they were a member of without declaring that.
This matter of Bridget McKenzie and the pork barrelling will also be examined in a Senate estimates inquiry, so this story has a long way to go.